Real African stories and real African experiences. This is the Legally Clueless video series. And in this episode, Jayson shares his story of getting fired from a job that he absolutely hated to building his business empire.
It was around 2014. I just left my job at CBA. I was an intern. I'd worked there for 8 months, and then I finally got another job, my first job. And the role was marketing analyst. So obviously I was excited, and I did not know what the role entailed, I remember flaunting those papers back in the day, saying excitement, telling my mother is telling everybody. But when I'm going to my work and I'm given my role and my job description, I was entering data and I asked myself, Jesus did not die on the cross for this. And every day was actually excruciating because you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. But how they had explained my role was that I would be analyzing data. Nobody needed my opinion. I was a 24-year-old going into the office, just shouting, saying, oh my God, no. So it was a very, very hectic company, Korean run. So sometimes I think some of the things that happened in the office were a bit militant. So we go for status, and it was a loose Jan. So I remember we went in and everybody has to give in their status for their countries. I ran Uganda. Now, personally, I don't know anything about Uganda, but I'm a people's person. So I called the guys who were on ground quite often because I just needed to understand, what's going on there? How is the industry? How is the market? Because I'm seeing the numbers, but then they actually know what's going on. So there's this guy who used to really assist me, and he just kept telling me, he's like, Ugandans just don't have money right now. And then it happened to be January, I think, when we were doing that status, which means that, who's buying 65-inch TVs in Jan, So I said this in the meeting. I just got to remember that my opinion did not matter. And then when I was being shouted at, I remembered that, hey, this working environment is actually extremely difficult. So by virtue of that, I stopped caring about my job because you go to work and you do something, and then you go to work again and you do something, and then it didn't matter. So after some time, I was just So Monday to Monday, if I was entirely honest, was like a drinking day because you just chomoka the office. Then, you're really tired and you're really sad. Then you're like, oh, let's just go to Mwenda's. Let's just have a couple of cocktails. Then you do one, throw back one, throw two back, throw three back. So you're hanged. And then the next day you do the same thing over again. So obviously, as my life was really, really going down the drain, I was also at the time in a really, really toxic relationship. It was level 10 toxicity because first of all, I was number 2. It was an oxymoron. Number 1, number 2. Anyway, so we were together for maybe a year, around the same time that I joined the company. And in the beginning, it was fantastic because we were friends. Then by mistake, I crossed the line and I was like, whoops. Then we pendana. I felt deeply for my partner at the time. And the problem was that their family was also going through some drama. Their parents were bankrupt because they were in some weird scandal at work. And it wasn't a real thing. But then, the way life would have it, they ended up being not just out on the street, but asked to take some leave. So my partner obviously was really, really going through the ringer. And as a person who earned 35,000 shillings, obviously I had to step up the plate, and I had to take care of us. So I think, to be honest, if I think about it now, we enabled each other because I was looking for somebody I could escape with because of work, and they were looking for somebody they could escape with because home was not conducive anymore. So it got to a point where I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And we broke up several times. And I mean like several, we kept just breaking up every time. And then we take a break. So I'm those people who would be able to, I can take a month off talking to you. Like, I think that's my Leo energy. I just move on because I go to find new energy. So one time I'm going to work and that day in the morning, I felt there was like a strange energy. You know, when you go to work, obviously I had a hangy as per usual, and I get to the office and I'm just walking around, you know, sauntering, wow, just looking around at everybody. And it's like, wow, oh, wait, I have some work to do. I go to the laptop and I work. And I get a call from HR. And HR tells me, please come and see me. I mean, I'm just like, oh, of course, why not? Let's go and hang out. He was a nice guy. So obviously I go, we see each other, and now I can see he has something really crucial to tell me, something important. So I tell him, what's up? And he tells me, you know, we've realized that you really don't like this job. And I think he saw it in my eyes. He saw it in my eyes that I was just like, actually, you're very right. If I could just walk out right now, I'd be very happy. But then I couldn't say that because, no, it's HR, it's not my friend. And he said that they're willing to give me 3 months remuneration. I mean, that 5,000, guys, that was back then. I mean, I was a billionaire if you asked me. The billions, Bitcoin, heavy money. And I sat back and I was just like, okay, cool. So he said, I will give you 35,000 times 3 months if you choose to leave. But I knew that if I had stayed, they would have frustrated me to the point where I'd have had to quit. But also, I mean, I was really done if I was entirely honest. So I said, okay. You know, I didn't think much into it. I didn't, you know, call a friend. There was no 50-50. I just said, thank you. I said, when will the money come into my account? I'm going to leave then. Thank you, sir. So I walk out and I remember it wasn't a feeling of sadness, but I was just like, really just like, it wasn't relief. I was just out of a job. So I went and I told a couple of friends, my friends in the office that I trusted and held dearly, who kept me through, that period of my life. And they were like, okay, so cool. So guys are helping me pack. I'm saying bye to everyone in the office. And then this lady comes and tells me, come, Jayson, come. So I'm just like, obviously I wasn't going to say bye to her, but I was going to give her a nice wave. And she says, oh my God, you're leaving. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, it's not like we're friends during this whole experience, but cool. And she tells me, I have a connect. And I said, oh my God, look at that. Like, what is God? You know, I just lost a job and she has a connect. So I said, cool. So she says, here's this number. Please contact them. Hey. So I'm walking away. I'm walking away. I'm walking towards my bag in excitement. And I check this paper. And I don't know if you remember myjobsite.com. That was what was written. And I could not believe what I was seeing. You know when somebody tells you they have a connect for you, it's a phone number. It's like it's an email address. They're telling you send your email address. You're telling me to go through a whole entire website where people are looking for T-girls and doctors at the same time. Okay, where do I fit in this as a data enterer? Sorry, market analyst. Whew. Took me back there. Day one of me being fired. Actually, it was day of me being fired. So I called a couple of friends. We went out because, you know, I think it's the proper thing to do when you're fired from a job. You go bash. I finished the last 1,500 shillings I had. Shout out to Molly's. Really had a good time. And then it was time to go home. So I remember I went home and then it was day one. So I am car and then my mom is just like, aren't you going to work? And I'm like, I lost my job. But if there's something I've realized, I mean, it's a realization too. I realized that at that moment that my mom was actually very supportive because the first thing she said was, I realized how much you hated that job. I think when you see somebody waking up day in, day out, you're able to kind of tell, like, this person is really losing themselves. And I'm a very bubbly person. I lost that. And my mom is somebody who has a lot of foresight. She's a business person. So for her, she didn't even mention me looking for another job. She mentioned, okay, Sarabasi, you have this, Bitcoin money, obviously. Are you going to start an empire? Obviously, I thought about Tesla at the time, but then I didn't go for it. So I decided to sell jewelry and phone covers. And it was incredible. The support I got was it was phenomenal. So I don't know. I think it was the fact that I started a business that I loved so much that every single piece that I had bought was something I thought that my mom could wear. Like even if I had to wear them, like even if I had to sit in the house and say, okay, Sarabasi, this is everything. This is everything for me because I know. So I think people bought into my style. And by virtue of that, now at the same time, I had also started social media. So when I was leaving, just before I left the company that I was working for, my good friend Maureen, we used to work together. Maureen pushed me a lot when it came to social media stuff. So I used to have a blog back then. It was Jero's Career. It was wild. I just used to have the best times because nobody was really reading what I was writing, but then I was putting out content. And then which led now into me doing lots of photography but it was mostly in clubs. And hence the name J Take a Pic started because everybody is wanting a picture, taken by me. Whoa. And I'm like, guys, chill. And I started to build a strange following on social media that kind of also helped my jewelry business. So hand in hand, I started to see wow, okay, this losing a job thing wasn't the one thing that could have happened to me. So I sat back and I realized that one, I was a terrible businessman because as my numbers grew, my business grew, but then my profits were low because how do your numbers grow? You go to the bar and then I'm just like, whoa, somebody's like, whoa, look at that ring, amazing. And they say, thank you. Then they buy the ring and then we have shots, but I pay for the shots. I don't understand. I think about it now, and I'm happy that my current business now has somebody who runs operations. Shout out to you, Doreen. Because back then, I think I would have made a lot of cash. I'd have been a beauty galore. That's what they're called there. I think their pieces are amazing. That would have been me, with 4 shops on Moy Avenue. Amazing. Once again, shout out to Bitcoin. So when I realized that business at the time was not a thing for me, I then had a friend. She was called Debbie. Debbie then asked me, yo, would you be keen on getting into social media? So as a community manager, basically what your role is to create content for pages, maintain pages, which is what I was doing with my social media. And I was just like, wait, and then I get paid for that. And then you guys will manage my money for me. I don't have to sell jewelry anymore. So I took a break on selling jewelry at the time because now I wanted to concentrate on this new venture. And I joined this small organization that had the most incredible people. People who would come into the office every day and just help you and be like, yo, what's going on? How can I be able to help you learn more about these different countries? Which was such a different environment from where I had come from, So every day was such a learning experience that I was just like, cool. But I think for me, as social media grew and my career grew, I found myself talking to people in, can I say, higher places, kind of, which is how I ended up landing my former job before the current job that I'm in, which was... That role was heavy. What was the role called? It was a digital strategy account manager. Big title. But this one was real. And every day was extremely challenging. Because you've just come from being, you're only role was just to create content. But then I feel like if I was to say just to create content, then I would diminish how heavy that was, because you're the voice that any company would be able to use. You know, the KCBs, the Safaricoms, that guy who writes that copy, that is one of the most important people in that whole company. I mean, okay, fine, the guy who like approves it, what else? But that guy is taking so much time, you know, just to research, listen to what the consumers are saying, listen to what the consumers are listening to, and then putting out the content. So yeah, moving into now my former job, and realizing just how hectic, you know, this role really was. But outside the office, now that's where the fun really was. So I realized that I really enjoyed interacting with people. So Take a Pic really actually now took off. That's when now I started doing like influencer jobs. So maybe a small backstory. When I quit, not only did I sell, no, I didn't quit when I was fired. Not only did I sell jewelry, but I also decided to take my blog in a different direction, as I said earlier. So I started learning how to cook at home. So I started now in that lane. So I started as a home chef, and then I went now into restaurants, and I spent a lot of cash in the beginning, where I just used to like walk into a restaurant and, you know, I'd review them. They wouldn't care. But you know what? Content. And I'd go back and I'd write this, you know, review, and I'm just like, wow, amazing. The chips were so sweet, and the masala chips were even sweeter. I mean, now I use big words because I work at a big food media agency. It's wild. So I kind of took a detour from now food and moved into lifestyle, which was such an exciting experience also, which is how I ended up with my brand Posh. So there's one birthday, it was my 25th. Hey, it's a long time ago. Okay. So when I turned 25, no, actually I turned 26. A friend of mine asked me, what can I get you for a birthday present? And I saw this particular font. And at that time, I used to say everything was posh. It was exciting. I loved it. So I said, I want that font on a white t-shirt with this word. And they said, okay, that's a weird request, but sour, I guess. And she bought it for 1,000 bob, which is the price I actually sell my t-shirts for. Obviously now I understand better, but but I ended up getting requests, because that night, obviously after my party, we went out and 1, 2, 3 people asked me for the t-shirts. I'm like, what's going on? Like, yeah, I'm like, okay, cool. And I think it was like maybe 6 months later when I put out the first like few t-shirts, and I was like, whoa, more people wanted my t-shirts. And I sat back and I'm just like, this is actually nuts. So the Posh business was, I mean, a totally different side of my venture. So now that's when I actually branched it out into Posh by J, which was the business side of it. So I had Take a Pic, and then I had Posh by J. I was smart. But don't forget, guys, I still was not financially savvy. So technically the business was, I mean, it was eating itself, if I was entirely honest. So I mean, I have my day job, then I have my influencing gigs. And then someone once approached me and they were like, would you be keen on doing an event? Shout out to you, Shiro. We sat in Deja Vu, and she was just like, for those who don't know, Deja Vu, hey, fun times, heavy fun times. We sat in that meeting, and I remember, I can say this very confidently, it was a Friday evening. There were maybe 15 people in the whole entire place. And she told me, okay, what we'll do is this. For your first event, we'll give you 10,000 bob. And I said, to come and party? Then she said, yeah, what you need to do is you need to put out the poster on your social media. Then we'll give you 2 bottles of wine, and we'll give you free shots the whole night. And I said, that's a sweet deal. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say yes. And the first posh date happened. I've never seen so many people in my whole entire life. From around 15 people, the club was packed. It was packed to the brim. And I remember going on stage and I was shaking. And I'm like, hi guys, party people, what's up? I'm so happy if you could make it. I'm not looking at anyone, And I remember I don't think people cared that I was on the stage. I think people cared that I was around. So like that night, I think that first night, I think I cut like 3 birthday cakes. You go to a meza and you're like, a cake. You sing with them, you party with them. Some chick told me about her boyfriend drama. Some guy was telling me about some chick he's trying to get who he told to come to Posh Night. Whoa. And that's how the Posh Night madness started. And I used to have 2 a month. You can obviously tell I burnt out. I got to a point, actually, the word I can use is a Kikuyu word. I had hohad because I was out partied. And I have a very supportive group of friends. So obviously they used to come for one event after the other. Once again, shout out to you, Doreen, if you're watching this. Doreen never skipped a beat. So just like everything, what goes up has to come down. Luckily at this point, I had gotten my best friend, who's Doreen, as my operations manager at the time. So she was handling the Posh side of the business. So once again, we decided to make profit. We had paid off debts because I was running it like somebody would come for a Posh date and they'd be like, oh my God, I need a Posh t-shirt. And I'm like, of course, I sent it to you on Monday. Do I follow up for money? No, I don't. So we're racking up debts with the printer and we're running low on merch, but people in Nairobi are really wearing Posh merchandise. And she said, actually, we're not doing that anymore. She said, what you'll do is you will be marketing. So you'll create content. What your work will be is to talk to the people, because clearly people enjoy talking to me. I'm able to convince you to buy a Posh t-shirt, and then it's January, so I make you also buy a hoodie. That's my job. I'm a marketer. Amen. When you're watching this, buy Posh. Yes. So I remember there was this weekend where everybody was burnt out. But then I had an event. I accepted an event. Everything had told me not to do it. Hey, everything. Always listen to your inner voice. Like, I did not listen. And I was like, and it was weird because it was way less money that I usually take for an event. But then I was just like, why not? So I remember I got ready in the morning, and for the first time in my entire life, I had a panic attack. And I didn't understand what was going on because I remember I was there in the bathroom, really crying. And I was really short of breath. And I was just like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And I could feel it. I could feel that the event was going to tank. So I called Doreen. But then Doreen had asked me. She had asked me to let her rest for this one. I'm not a selfish best friend. I think I'm very fortunate to I have 4 best friends. What are the odds that all your best friends in one weekend have things to do? And then Fena, who is also my best friend, went to the wrong location. Like, when she's like, what? Doreen can't come? Okay, cool. I'm on the way. She called me and she's like, I'm here. Where are you? Because it's kind of packed. And I'm like, you're in the wrong packed place. And I was just like, hey, okay. I remember I went there and I was counting people as they walked in. Hey, I'm like, okay, man. There were 35 people that day. 35 people. I'd never seen an event like that. I remember I sat down and I just started to drink shots. And actually, by 7 p.m., I was very drunk. I had the best time because I remember after that, now we chomoked there. Then I think I went for a house party, and the guys who were in that house party were hanged. So there were a group of maybe 10 guys, and they were like, we were coming to an event, then we got hanged. But just Nani, we come for the next one. And that was the moment where I said, I don't know if events are for me, you know? And it was weird because I'd never felt like that before. But then I knew if I told someone that, they'd tell me, you're giving up because one event turned. And I said, but I don't enjoy it anymore because I don't enjoy the interactions. I don't think they're personal anymore. I think I sit and I don't care as much as I used to care before. Because before I would sit with somebody in a bar and we'd talk about all manner of things. You know, someone is telling me about, you know, how they had problems at Jobo and they came to Posh Night one time. It was the best time they ever had. And they got to talk to me. And then they're telling me about it another time. And it got to a point where I did not care. Like, I remember I used to sit like this and I'd give you all of 2.5 minutes. And one of my friends would always know the signal and I'd just do. And then, Kajay, just come out. Nani is calling you. You need to go. And I'm like, oh my God, it's so nice to see you. And I just felt like it doesn't matter anymore. But I did this in the beginning because of one, the money. But then two, I enjoyed human interaction a lot. I remember at the time I had maybe like one last event at Deja Vu. And it was not my best event. What I did not know was that it was my last event for them because I think they had gotten everything they had gotten out of the partnership. And I think I was dumb because I never had a contract with them. Everything was on text, everything was on email. And I remember the event ended and they sent me cash almost immediately, which was very strange because they usually just send me cash like on Wednesday. And I was like, okay, this is weird. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I received the cash. And I remember I asked and I'm like, okay, so I want to plan my weekends because I had now two venues. I had Deja Vu and Mercury. And they were like, okay, we'll talk to you. And I said, talk to me? I mean, we usually plan way ahead, but like 3 months. And it became like bad communication. And I'm just like, guys, what's going on? What's going on? And it was a painful 360 back to where I was with my first company when I got fired. Because I sat down and I was like, wait, it just happened again, you know? And I remember just asking myself like, okay, what next? But I thought to myself, I'm happy you are done already because if you weren't done, this would have really, really sucked, you know? And I sat and I was like, guy, sa hiyo pesa vile ilikuwa tamu. So taitoa wapi? And then it was March last year. The pandemic happened. And there were no more events. You know, it was, you know how like everything just shut down. And I was just like, yeah, okay. So now, if that was the only source of income you had, what would have happened? And I remember I had just moved into my new job. I no longer have events. Obviously, love, luckily, iko inanisumbua. So we thank God for that. Hey, we thank God for that. So that was not an issue. I'm in this new job and over 20 people have been fired. And somehow I didn't get fired in that job. And people started buying Posh for some strange reason. I think it was that comfort for being home. So everybody's wearing hoodies. So people started wearing hoodies. So that side of the business kind of helped me maintain, not my life, but my lifestyle, kind of just like here and there, because I already told my landlord, like, wait, umeona hii pandemic vile inainaka. And I remember he just told me, sawa basi, we'll give you some time. And at that time, I forgot to mention, because of all my Posh nights, I had lost a lot of my brand deals because they didn't really want to associate with themselves with somebody who was out on social media like this, which I'm not really, you know, when you say like this, like I'm not twerk, but I'm not twerking like, you know, like I talk respectfully, if I can say that. So I lost a lot of brand deals, but it's because I didn't have any time to create content. I have 2 events in a month. I have a full-time job. I have a brand, Posh by Jay, that I have to handle. So I don't have the time to sit down with a videographer and start telling him. And I'm the one who does all my stuff. So now, even that whole aspect of delegating, telling somebody like, okay, Salbasi, we're going to shoot this and you're going to edit. I didn't have that time. And I remember I got my first brand deal after the first 2 months of the pandemic. Showmax. I remember we were in the house, we were in my friend Elizabeth's house, and we prayed because it was like, how you sit back and you're just like, oh my God, I hadn't sent my mom money in so long. I hadn't, when I didn't have cash for a while. And this thing came and I said, if this is the last time that a brand will ever approach me, I'm going to make sure that I give them the toppest notch content that I've ever done in my life. And I remember I used to look at my friends and they just used to be like on social media and they're looking and they're like, okay, Sarah, we can do this. There's this concept. You want to try it? And one by one, deals came back because of how much effort I was putting into my content. And that kind of also opened now doors at Jobo. I work at a food media agency. So what we used to do before was a lot of restaurant content and all that. And I was just like, guys, we can be able to do some things. Let's approach some brands and be able to create some strategies for them. And we started going afloat. And it's the 31st of March 2021. And I can comfortably say that I'm alive with some sweet brand deals, still wearing posh merch, no longer doing events, and still extremely in love with myself, minus a person. Yeah, but that's on that.
Thanks for watching this episode. Remember, you can catch new Legally Clueless video episodes every Friday and new audio episodes every Monday.